Hey everybody, this is Robert Burke. Welcome to edition number 20 of When to Play. And today I wanted to talk about a game called Descent: Journeys in the Dark. This is the second edition of the game. The first edition came in a giant coffin box. This is a Fantasy Flight title. So you know the production values are high. Fantasy Flight is one of the big board game companies out there. And for Descent 2, they have streamlined Descent down. The box is still big and it's still hefty, but they've streamlined the game and made it, I don't know if I would say easier, but it is definitely easier to run. So I think some people are going to love that and some people are not going to like that. But the first thing I would say about Descent is you need to like a fantasy theme, right? If you're going to consider Descent as a purchase. Descent is a fantasy game. It is a role-playing board game where they have taken all the elements of role-playing games like Dungeons and Dragons, which is the big daddy, obviously, or Pathfinder is very big now. So if you like role-playing games like that, then Descent is something that you might really like because it kind of filters that role-playing game experience down into a board game format. So that's the bottom line on what Descent is. All right, so although Fantasy Flight has reduced the box size in half, basically, it's still loaded with stuff. This box is really heavy. It is filled with dungeon tiles that are two-sided with all different kinds of terrain and rooms, all kinds of different things. It's loaded with cardboard tokens for all kinds of different things, health markers, fatigue markers, minions, all kinds of stuff. It's loaded with little cards, it's loaded with big cards, it's loaded with custom dice, and it's loaded with miniatures. Some big, giant, honking miniatures. This is the dragon. It's probably the biggest one. It's got red ones that represent elite monsters. The white ones represent non-elite monsters. Now, there's little ones too. Here's a spider. So there's all kinds of miniatures that come in this game that you will fight as heroes. You're going to play a hero, a different hero type in the game, and you're going to be fighting these monsters most likely in your adventures when you play Descent. So obviously there's a lot of miniatures here. If you're into painting miniatures, I think the quality of these is really good and the detail is very good. So these are definitely worth painting if you're into that, into spending your time and really making a miniature come to life. You have that opportunity here to really make something really beautiful if you're into that kind of thing. So the game itself, I'm not going to get into the rules. If you're new to gaming, if gaming is a new hobby for you, or if you are coming just from the role-playing world, maybe you know all the role-playing rules in Pathfinder or Dungeons and Dragons and want to try this. I would say for you, you're going to have to spend some time learning the rules. But I would also say that if you're a board gamer and are used to reading rule books, I think the rule books are good. A lot of people have problems with Fantasy Flight rule books. I don't. I think they do a good job. I think the illustrations are great. I think the examples are great. I think the rule books are clear and pretty concise. So in this game, you're going to have one book that's the rules of play. And this is going to walk you through all the different rules of the game. And they're not that difficult, right? Like when you're leveling up a hero, you're going to be getting cards, different abilities. The dice that come with the game, if you roll an X, that's a miss. Like if you're attacking and you roll an X, that's a bad thing. Very simple. The numbers on the dice are for ranged weapons. So if you're 3 spots away from a goblin that you're trying to attack with a bow and arrow, you need to roll at least a 3 range to hit that creature that you're attacking. So range, the numbers are the range. Then the hearts on the side of the dice, how much damage you do, right, if you hit the creature. And then there's lightning bolts that will activate a special ability. So if you have a weapon that you're using, it might have a special ability associated with it that you will get if you roll a lightning bolt. Maybe it will do an extra damage, or maybe it will stun the monster. You know, all different kinds of special abilities. And you really have some limited options on how you build your character, which is good and bad, right? So some role players might not like the limitations of this board game, but if you want something quick, if you want to play a game that really gives you that role-playing experience, you want to get it going fast. You don't want to spend hours rolling characters and doing all that. Maybe you have an hour or a couple hours and you want to play something quick and fight some monsters and get some loot, then this gives you that. So in Descent, you are going to pick a hero that you are going to play. And if you're playing with multiple other people in your group, you're going to form a party that is playing against the Overlord character. So, for example, I might choose to pick Grisbin the Thirsty. And you can see there are a bunch of icons here on the card for Grisbin. So, up here at the top, you have the movement rate. You'll see the little foot there. So, Grisbin can move 3 on his turn. Then, hit points. He's got 14, so that's his health. And then you've got the stamina of Grisbin, which is a 4. And that's how much fatigue the character can play until he's got to rest. So that's a good thing in this as well. Like if you can move, you get a couple actions on your turn, right? But if I move, I can choose to move a second time, but I'm going to take a fatigue for doing that. Right, so your character is enabled to do more stuff on a turn, but you are going to take fatigue for that, and maxing out your fatigue is a bad thing because you're basically going to be ineffective and you're going to have to rest. And then there is the defense, right? It will show you a die that this character gets to roll for defense. Then on the bottom here, it's going to show you some different numbers. And you can consider that if you're from the role-playing world, that's from like saving throws, right? Or like the saving throws. Like you're going to get to roll against that number for certain things that happen in the game, and the Overlord will need to know what number that is. So it really simplifies things for a role-playing game. Then you also have, I've got the wrong side here. Each character has a heroic ability that they can use during the game, but they also have a heroic feat that they can use just once per game. So that's a really powerful one. And once the character uses that, they simply flip the card over, and you can see that is no longer here, right? So they've already used it. So very simple. Everything you need to know for your character is right here on the sheet, and then you're going to get little skill cards as well based on what you select and how you personalize your character to the kind of gameplay that you like. Maybe you want them to be more defensive, so you pick a defensive ability card. Maybe you want them to be really strong in melee combat, so you pick, a melee combat bonus skill. Maybe if you're playing a magic user character, there's one spell that you like better than another spell. So you can personalize these characters a little bit, and as they level up, they're going to be getting stronger, and you're going to be adding more stuff to it. So that's one thing that I think is really important to know about this game, that it is best in a campaign setting because you're developing that connection with your character. And that can be a problem for some people, because on the other hand, this game works very well as a quick role-playing adventure. You can get up and set up and playing very quickly, and you could do a little campaign scenario from the quest guide that takes an hour or maybe a little over an hour. So you can do very quick little adventures. You don't have to dedicate weeks or days to complete an adventure like you would with a role-playing game. So if that's appealing to you and you like role-playing games, or you like tactical games, this has a lot of, you're using miniatures and there's squares on the tiles, right? The line of sight rules are there. They're very simplified. You move, if you can move through 3 spaces, that's 3 squares on the board. So there's a tactical element where you're positioning your character to try and accomplish the quest goal for that particular scenario that you're playing. So that's that. And then the dice rolls, obviously, just like in a role-playing game, they become important, right? If you've really got to hit this creature, you have 1 hit point left. You can beat this creature if you roll the right number. But if you don't, you might be dead this turn. Or in this game, you're not dead, you're knocked out. But so the dice rolls can be very exciting in this game because of the how the mechanics work. So it can be played like a beer and pretzels kind of adventure if you want. Or you could make it a more serious campaign that you play all the way through. So it is flexible in that regard, and that's a good thing. But I would say if you don't have a consistent gaming group, then playing the campaign in Descent is going to be difficult. That means it's probably not as valuable for you. Because the problem really is, if you play this game with, say, 3 different groups of people, you might end up playing the same couple scenarios over and over again, right? And that gets boring. If you play the more advanced scenarios, obviously there's ways you can do that. You can give your character more experience from the start and more abilities and all that. So, it's definitely, you can do that kind of stuff. But if you don't have the people that can play a campaign, then you're not going to get that campaign experience out of Descent. So that's one thing you really have to think about. If you do have a group of people who enjoy role-playing or are good role-players that you play with consistently, and you all like board games as well, then Descent might be something for you, because you could play a scenario pretty quickly on your game night and get that RPG fix without dedicating all the time required, especially as a DM, right? For a DM to create a new RPG adventure, they really have to, if they're creating it themselves, it's a real lot of work. But even if you're using a module or a pre-written adventure, you've got to read through the whole adventure, know what's going on. You've got to know the backstory. You've got to be prepared. You got to roll characters. This eliminates all that stuff and lets you get playing. And that's a good thing. And I think they've done a very good job with the cards and, giving you enough options to level up and personalize the game without bogging it down so much where you would say, oh, let's just play an RPG. Why mess with that? It's a good medium in between the two. And as a board game, it works too, because you're rolling dice, you're making tactical movements on the board. So board gamers who like a fantasy theme might enjoy Descent. All right, so as we like to do here on When to Play, I'm going to look at some of the ratings and comments that people have left on the internet about the game. So let's look at some of the low scores that people have given Descent 2, 2nd edition. And William, this is a scale of 1 to 10, William gives the game a 1. So the worst rating you could possibly give a game. And William says the game is horrible. This game had no weapons bonus for the offhand weapon. There was no buying and selling items, no extra skill cards. There were no feat cards, no upgrading your skills and abilities, no purchasing training. There were no treasure cards, no gold piles, no points awarded for kills. There was no equipping better gear, no way of getting better gear, no added danger that would require you to do so. There was no danger of losing just from running out of conquest tokens. There are so many things missing that I could go on and on. So yeah, this is a streamlined version of Descent. So that has pluses and minuses depending on what kind of player you are. If you like a real immersive experience where you have control over everything and lots of different things can happen, and you have lots of different little choices that you can make, Descent is not going to appeal to you like it doesn't appeal to William. But if you don't like to have to micromanage an adventure, if you are looking for something quick and fun that has that role-playing aspect to it, then this is a great game for you. It's more, like I said, it's like a beer and pretzels RPG board game where you can get playing quickly. You don't have to spend too much time on all these different options. You're going to try to complete your quest. There's some tactical decisions. There's the excitement of the dice rolls. It happens very quickly, and if you have players that are good role players, it can be a blast, right? Because there's all that opportunity for banter and cooperation and all those kinds of things. The reasons that we love role-playing games. It's up to you as a player to make it a great adventure or not. But you're limited. But the limitations in the game are there for a purpose, right? It streamlines the game, makes it more accessible, makes it faster, and makes it easier. So if you want a lot of depth, if you want a heavy experience, then Descent's not for you. So let's see what some other people said that rated it low. All right, so Robert rated it a 3, a little tiny bit better, but not a lot. He says it's a theme-heavy game without any atmosphere, a tactical combat game without any interesting decisions. For what is a simplistic decision-light game, there is much fiddling, about 10 minutes to set up, and playtime is far from short. In short, there may be a lot of components in the box, but there's not a lot of game in there. I think 10-minute setup time, I think some of these scenarios can be set up much quicker than 10 minutes. And 10 minutes isn't a long time, I don't think, to set up a game. So I just disagree with Robert on that. There are a lot of components in the game, but obviously you're not using all those components in each adventure, right? The components let you play a bunch of adventures. And again, it's not, he has a problem with it not being a heavy game, right? So he doesn't like that. If you want a heavy game, a heavy dungeon crawl game, or an RPG in a board game form, then this isn't for you. He also says, as for the theme, the mission flavor text is neither funny nor dramatic. The missions, sculpts, and card art also inhabit a world between cartoony and dark fantasy. So yeah, the artwork, I'm not a huge fan of the artwork in Descent, but again, that's personal opinion. It is a little on the cartoony side. I like my RPG art to be more realistic or painterly. These are more cartoony, so that doesn't appeal to me. It might really appeal to you, though. That's just a matter of taste. It doesn't, it's just Robert's opinion. And even though I share his opinion, I would never say that it makes the game, bad. It depends on what you like. If you hate cartoony art to the point where you can't even play a game that has it, then this isn't for you. But if you care more about the experience and the gameplay and the art doesn't impact that for you, then you'll probably be fine. Now let's see some people who've rated it high. And Soylent says, have played about 15 hours so far and it has been excellent. I very much enjoy the gameplay. It is streamlined without losing the fun and flavor of the first edition. I can't wait to see Descent get back to the table again. We are really enjoying getting through a full quest in 2 hours. Everything just plays so much quicker. And that's the big thing about Descent 2. It plays quickly for what it is, which is a good thing. You can play full quests. I've played some in about an hour or 2 hours. They're not going to go much longer than that. So you can have that fun fantasy role-playing experience in a short amount of time, and you don't have to do all that preparation work that you need to do for an RPG. So that's the benefit here. And if you're looking for something to fill that niche, then Descent is definitely a good one for you to have. If you don't like fantasy, if you like a lot of strategy, if you like a lot of depth, then Descent is not for you. It's not for you if you're a strategy gamer, right? It's not for you if you're a war gamer. If you're a role player that likes some tactics and you're looking for something quick to play that gives you that experience, then Descent, the second edition, is something you should definitely have. So I hope this review has helped you and helped you understand if it's right for you. And if you do play it, again, I recommend really trying to get the same people together over a campaign and run a whole campaign. The experience will be much better for you. But if you can't do that, you can play it as a one-off adventure for a quick, beer and pretzels night, where it's really about the excitement of rolling those dice to see if your party of adventurers can succeed in a quest. So it's got those two sides to it. So again, I'm Robert Burke. Thanks for joining us for episode number 20, and we'll be back soon with 21.